Hi, I'm Russ Mitchell, and welcome to Eye to Eye. Katie Couric is off today. Author Clifford Irving fooled the world with his fictitious autobiography of eccentric billionaire Howard Hughes. The bizarre tale is being retold in a movie starring Richard Gere. Erin Moriarty talked to Gere about playing the master of the hoax.
Why do you think it was such a big story back then?
Well, Howard Hughes was such an archetypal character, you know. No one could put their finger on him. It was, you know, he was part sadhu, you know, Indian faker saint. He was this uber capitalist. He was a political guy. He was a movie guy. He was oil. It was all these power structures. And no one had kind of put them together in that mix before, in one person. The fact that no one really knew anything about him, Hughes, that they made up these incredible stories, and many of them, I guess, were true, about how crazy he was. So it was kind of, I kind of imagine Clifford sitting around at a dinner party, and by all accounts, he was an incredibly charming guy, and saying, what if you wrote a book, mixing drinks, what if you wrote a book, a story, about someone who could never refute it because he's too crazy to refute it? He doesn't talk to anybody. How long do you think he could get away with that? And I think that just started this process, and I think it just got out of hand. He just kept fooling people. And I don't think he believed how far it had gone. Ended up being, you know, in his own mind, I think a kind of an art object, this whole process. At some point he would be found out and he'd say, well, you know, it was all a joke.
And there's a little slip of a man on a bed, sitting like a monk. Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes is sitting right there.
Well, he says in his book that he never intended grand larceny. This was just a hoax. I mean, do you believe that?
Well, hard to say. No, he said, you know, I read the books, and he claims that he had these contracts, book contracts, for I think $250,000, which was a lot of money then. And, you know, I don't think he had such a huge lifestyle. Ibiza, where they were living, was an island that at that point I think you could live pretty cheaply. He had friends, and, you know, he came from a well-to-do family in the Upper East Side of New York. I don't know. I have a feeling it was more just the quirk of the art object. It was a happening to him. I think that was really what it was. And I think there's probably some deep rage underneath it all, that he was not accepted as Hemingway or Norman Mailer or whoever, that he was considered a second, third tier writer.
What made you want to be Clifford Irving?
Well, I didn't want to be Clifford Irving. I have no interest in portraying him.
Right.
Portraying him, it was a time which in some ways we're not out of now, where people lose sight of themselves and reality in a whole media swirl of image and greed. I think the exploration of a lot of those structures, finding this mix of Nixon and Watergate and abuse of power at the same time that Clifford is putting one over on the literary establishment, which is more interested in making money than finding the truth. I think we're still in that cycle pretty desperately right now.
But could you ever imagine yourself pulling off something like this, going as far as this man did and pulling off the hoax?
We've all lied. The camera's on her, right? Does she have a camera on her? We've all lied. You can nod. Just, yes, we've all lied. There's not one of us on this planet. We all know what it's like to lie, and you get away with it for a little bit. Some, you know, you get away for a day, a week, a month, a year, maybe. 10 years later, it comes out. People on their deathbed, you know what I told you when I was 21 and I said that? It's not true, I lied. I mean, that's part of our makeup as human beings. We tend to lie a lot.